Welcome to a special edition of Andy and Ari on 3, presented by Wendy's. Ari, we got to see Bill Belichick introduced at North Carolina, and it was a Bill Belichick college football press conference. And I realize we've talked a lot about Bill Belichick this week, but every time I see something else, it's more amazing to me that this is happening. Like, he is North Carolina's head coach now.
You know, when it hit me, somebody asked him in the press conference, can you outline your recruiting plan, and do you plan on winning the state? I thought of you
immediately when
I was just like,
question was asked.
Like, when you think about the questions that this man's been asked over his tenure, and like then to just be like, hey, are you going to do exactly what Mac Brown was trying to do? Like, I thought that was like really interesting, but also at the same time too, like, I was talking to a few people at North Carolina this morning, and they're like, why does everybody keep asking whether Bill Belichick can go into living rooms and sell recruits? Don't they know that's not how this shit works anymore? And it's like, it's true. Like, it's just, he hired a former NFL GM to run his department of talent acquisition, right? Like,
yeah, Michael Lombardi.
And I assume that his plan, or at least in his head right now, was to delegate most of the scouting and at least most of the interaction with the kids up front, you know, to those people. And then when people come to campus, he'll close the way that Mac Brown did, right? So like, I don't know that I buy that all that much, but the question that I've been coming back to over and over and over again, Andy, and we talked about this on the phone after our show this morning, is why would a 72-year-old man with 6 Super Bowl rings, who coached the greatest quarterback to ever walk the face of the earth and is also considered to be the greatest NFL coach of all time, want to do this? Like, it doesn't make sense to me. And then that also opens up the secondary question, which is, what are realistic expectations for North Carolina now that he's the coach? And if it's win the ACC for the first time since 1980, when LT was on the team, does that hit him like in the love tank, the gratification sensor in his brain, the same way as winning a freaking Super Bowl? Like, I just don't understand. And maybe the answer is he loves football and he wasn't getting an NFL job, and this was the best.
That was the answer he gave. He didn't say the part about the NFL job, but the answer he gave is, I love coaching. And he said and I thought it was actually a pretty good answer in the press conference, where they asked, you know, at your age, it was actually a reporter who was close to the same age as Bill Belichick. And so I like the way the guy put it. He's like, yeah, he did. I say this with all due respect, but I'm the same age as you. Why are you doing this? And Belichick's like, I just like coaching football. Like, he said it doesn't feel like work to him, which is all the right things, which is, we say that about our jobs, which is true. Like,
Andy,
our job is not real work.
Now, if I ever hit $20 million, you're going to find a new co-host.
20 million? Is that all?
I mean, like, if I ever get to a point where I can buy a house in Malibu and not have to worry about working, like, I'll be a guest, but it ain't going to be every day. No, I mean, I'm kidding. I have pondered that, of like, if I had more money than I knew what to do with, would I still occupy my time with this? And I actually think that the answer is yes, because I enjoy it so much. So maybe that's it. But at the same time, too, it's like, he didn't take the Bama job. He didn't take the Georgia job. He took a second-tier ACC job. And I'm not trying to disparage North Carolina, but like, let's call it what it is. They haven't won an ACC championship in over 3 decades. So maybe that's the excitement. Maybe there's some sort of familial like roots to his parents or his dad that is driving the ship here. You know, people are strange as they get, older, and they start, contemplating life. Maybe that's part of it. But like, I don't love. Well, here, before I say that, we don't always have to have the answer for what drives people, by the way, either. Like, we're not entitled to that. If he wants to do that, and this is obviously, the direction, he's a human being, he can do whatever he wants. But the thing that has irritated me is, I think as a result of not understanding this, because it is bizarre, like, we can call it what it is bizarre. Not understanding it, though, has led to hating it. But from a lot of people, I've seen a lot of negativity, and anybody who listens to this podcast knows that I'm ready to hit the negative button when it's time to be negative. But what's the point of being negative about this right now? Like, they're trying something. The guy's been successful for a long period of time. He's a very name brand head coach. They supported him financially, both in his salary and what they're willing to do from a support level. Like, why am I reading a bunch of columns about how he was not going to be good at this.
We have people gatekeeping the sport.
Mic issue.
Yeah, I know. It's my fault. I muted. There was noise. I muted. We'll have to remake the sign. I don't have a sign for me, but I'll put the Ari sign up, but just cross out Ari and put Andy. My bad. Look, we have people who gatekeep this sport. Sometimes we do it. Sometimes you and I do it. Like you casuals don't understand college football. And in this case, it's a little silly because I think a lot of it is a response to people from NFL world going, "Oh, Bill Belichick's going to come in and run roughshod over college football." And then there's people saying, "No, it's a little more complicated than that." But it's not so complicated that Bill Belichick, who has won 6 Super Bowls as a head coach, can't come figure it out. I think he can. I think expectations need to be realistic, though, and understandable. And it's sort of like what you asked, like what fills his love tank, his passion bucket, as they say. And I think the idea of making the college football playoff, competing for an ACC title, like those are things that are realistic, though aspirational, when you're the North Carolina head coach. And I think that's probably what would satisfy. Like, he understands that there's a challenge. And I don't know. It's Bill Belichick, so this is like 10 levels above everybody else. But you and I have been around a lot of hyper-competitive people, be they players, coaches, people in our field who've been very successful. Those people identify a challenge and are happiest when they are working toward meeting a challenge.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That's how they operate. That is what fills their love tank.
You know what they say about like really, really wealthy people is that when people become super rich and people like us question why do they keep trying to make money, that like the actual gratification of the journey for them is the accumulation of wealth, not what wealth can get you.
Right. It's like Nick Saban always talked about, which, by the way, Nick Saban got it from Bill Belichick for the most part, it's the process. It's not the result.
Yeah. But the thing that I think is interesting is that like if one of the richest people in the world who's making billion-dollar building deals got amped up about flipping my football cards. You know, like, and I don't know if it's as drastic as that analogy, but like winning the ACC championship, though a huge boon for North Carolina football fans, when lined up against the personal accomplishments that Bill Belichick has already claimed, like me as a normie I can't register that. Like, it doesn't make any sense to me. So maybe there's a certain like internal pride meter of like, hey, you know what? I can do something that's never been done in college for 30 years. And maybe that's enough for him. But like, I think that the why is, even though we may not be entitled, in my opinion, to know exactly what drives him, I think it also is the crucial question to ask as it pertains to what the ceiling of the program is and how long he'll do it is. Like that's the thing. Like, you know, I know why Kenny Dillingham shows up to work every day. You know what I mean? I know why Ryan Day shows up to work every day. You know why Kirby Smart does. Like, there's a pursuit there to reach.
But Kirby Smart has already done it twice. Like, yeah, I have to do it again.
Kirby Smart is trying to be like Saban, probably, right? Like, you want to keep doing it. Dabo has done the thing 9 times already in his career that Bill Belichick is striving to do now. Like, like just reconciling that in my brain is bizarre.
So we don't know what's going to happen. We do know he will be properly attired, though. Watch this.
Bubba, I believe you have a presentation for Coach. Chancellor also.
All right. You got a jersey. And I did get a new sport coat for the occasion.
Oops, sorry, Bubba.
Well, Chancellor, thank you for the sweatshirt, but the truth of the matter is, I already have one.
That is Bill Belichick's father's UNC issued sweatshirt from the 1950s. And if they don't have that on sale in the bookstore in 2 weeks, they've failed miserably. Like, stick a Jordan logo on that and let's roll. And that was athletic director Bubba Cunningham talking about getting a new sport coat and then putting on a sleeveless sport coat if you're listening in audio only form. And he sat through the rest of the press conference in that.
You think that he slashed the sleeves of like a Hugo Boss or a Hickey Freeman or something, like a nice suit?
I don't think that was one of his. I'm hoping it's not one of his nicer ones. I'm hoping it's one of his old. Bubba's a very nattily attired dude for the most part. So,
I mean, like, listen, Andy, suits are expensive as hell, man.
Oh, I know the good ones.
Like a nice suit, yeah. I don't know,
but first of all, the short sleeve Jordan brand North Carolina sweatshirt that better be in the bookstore today. But the throwback Steve Belichick. Not Steve Bill's son, but Steve Bill's father. Like, that's got to be in the bookstore in 2 weeks. It's got
and like maybe that's the answer, Andy. Maybe just seeing him hold that sweater up and like feeling like I mean, he said coming back home to North Carolina, like, you know, I mean, he does view this place, I guess, in a way that, you know, maybe they're just lucky enough. Like, I mean, I don't know. Is this like LeBron being born in Akron and then like having a soft spot for the Cavs in Cleveland?
But
like
LeBron was raised in Akron. Belichick was raised in Minneapolis. So
no, I know. So I'm trying to figure out like maybe the personal connection of like, hey, you know, I don't know. Like, if my grandfather started a business and that business was failing or not reaching its potential, and I knew that I could buy the business and carry on my family's legacy and do something to shape it up so that, I mean, maybe I would want to do that. I don't know.
Yeah.
Like from a person to person standpoint or a familial aspect to it. Maybe, I don't know. Maybe there's a connection there.
Speaking of his younger days in Chapel Hill, Belichick checked another college coach box. Like, when you are introduced as a new college head coach, there are a few things you have to do. Talk about how great the school is, talk about, you know, how great the president is and the chancellor and the athletic director. You're also supposed to gig the rival at least once. And he did that.
You know, when you're little, you don't remember everything. Obviously, I was too young to remember a lot of things from Carolina. But as I grew up, you know, you hear the same story over and over and over and over again. And so one story I always heard was Billy's first words were, "Beat Duke."
Do you think that's true?
No, I don't think that's true.
I
think if he'd been hired, well, he could have done it if he's coaching Navy, because I'm sure there were a lot of words he said about Navy and Army and all that growing up. But yeah, I don't know. But it's a great story. It works for the press conference. Whoever, if it's not true, whoever came up with it, A+ for effort. We got a question from Fowl in the chat. Do we know who's on his coaching staff? We actually do have one name, Freddie Kitchens, who is serving currently as North Carolina's interim coach.
Cleveland Browns legend.
That's right. He was a Cleveland Browns coach before. We played at Alabama. So
he's a Cleveland Browns legend.
I know. He's a Cleveland Browns legend. You're right.
You want to know why I keep saying that? Because when we were working at the Athletic and he was hired, it was like right around the beginning times of the Athletic. They sent the Cleveland Browns beat writer down to Alabama to do like a Genesis story.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
And I just like always was amused by that because like I got to do it. And those were the good days. And I was just like, he's just down in Alabama writing about the Browns coach.
Well, that's one we know. Michael Lombardi will be the GM. For those who don't know, Michael Lombardi's been doing what Ari and I do for the last 8 or so years. He's been at VSiN doing a radio show, but he was the Cleveland Browns GM. He worked in player personnel in the NFL for a long time, including with Bill Belichick. So he's going to be the GM. Just a thought, because Ari Belichick was our competitor at one time as a podcaster. He's not anymore, but this past fall, he had a podcast. It was with Michael Lombardi and Matt Patricia, former Lions coach, longtime Belichick assistant. What do you want to bet the whole podcast crew's coming to Chapel Hill?
Matt Patricia was the defensive coordinator, right? That he turned into the
He
offensive
was who he
coordinator.
made into an
and then
offensive
changed-
coordinator.
And then he
that last
couldn't,
year.
and their offense was historically terrible because he just never did that before. Isn't that the
It was actually worse the following year with Bill O'Brien, who was a seasoned offensive coordinator and was a good college head coach this year at Boston College.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, in the NFL too, if you have a personnel issue, and New England had a pretty stark one at the quarterback position since the GOAT left, then maybe you chalk that up to that. But so let me ask you this. What I find kind of interesting, and I'm probably going to pursue a story on, like with some reporting.
Yeah.
And, at On3, we have the resources to do this. And I know a bunch of people, but like GMs or player personnel people in the college space aspire, a lot of them do, to becoming NFL GMs. Like that's what that is, right? Like that is a beginning piece in their professional journey. And now they hired a former NFL GM to be the GM. And I find that fascinating. Like, I don't know how the Lombardi hire hits you, Andy, but definitely interesting, right?
It is, because I want to know who's working with him. I want to know if it's people who, like Patrick Suddas, who's already at North Carolina, who's one of the original, like OG personnel guys, came up through Saban's system in Alabama, worked at Texas, was worked at a bunch of different places, worked at Georgia Tech. Like, is he going to stay, or is he gone with the old staff? Like, how does that work? So that's the question. Like,
and
are you going to have
how much
people...
of a correlation is there between draft analysts and breaking down young men versus high schoolers too? Like, I feel like it's the same general thing, but like, how much does a player personnel director who's breaking down tape of a 15-year-old have in common with a NFL GM who's breaking down draft tape and combine tape?
Probably pretty similar, actually.
You think it's
just
similar?
Different. Yeah, it's just different levels there. But remember, player personnel in the NFL means something different. Scouting is, you look at the college guys. So that would be the equivalent of recruiting out of high school. Player personnel is when you're scouting the rest of the league. That would be your transfer portal people, which, by the way, everybody's already got. So all of this is not new. Like we said on the show, all of this is not revolutionary. So I want to see who they have who's got some college experience, because like the best at this right now, we talk about Mark Pantoni at Ohio State, who's another one of the kind of the OGs of that position. But like Marshall Malchow at Oregon, he's probably the best right now at that job. So can Michael Lombardi, who's been out of it and who's only worked in the NFL, can he do it as well, or is he going to have to get some help from guys who've been doing it? I think that's important. I think that's going to be a pretty key thing.
You know what I'm on the word for here?
What's that?
Because we don't know what the staff is going to be. And like, I'm making this up. This is completely out of my ass, but I want you to like, what about Randy Moss, wide receivers coach? Like, are you on alert for like former NFL player who is super
Coach Prime brought Warren Sapp on.
I'm saying but to be like a full-time assistant to kind of help with that recruiting. Like, and again, like, I don't know. It goes back.
Well, I mean, like,
Randy
Mac
Moss
Brown hired Dre Bly, like,
yeah,
for the same reason.
So like, Mike Vrabel is not a person that would be interested in a assistant job in North Carolina, because he'll be a head coach somewhere.
He's going to be an NFL head coach. So, but Bill Belichick has an entire stable of former assistants.
Like Wes Welker, wide receiver coach, like Rob Gronkowski, tight end coach. Like, I don't know if I'm overthinking this, but like the NFL-cation of college football makes a lot of sense. But like, also too, I think he's going to have to do something to make him more adaptable to the college space too, right? Because college is about hype and connectivity and all these things. And it's like, if Randy Moss, again, completely made up, but if Randy Moss was recruiting high school receivers, like, you might be able to get a few high school receivers who want to play for Randy Moss. You know what I mean? Like, there's like levels.
Right, but he doesn't. I don't think he has to do that, because he can also have a guy who's coached that position in the NFL for 20 years. And that is also going to make high school receivers want to come play for him. So,
but like, it's the Deion factor as an assistant, like, because Deion Sanders,
Yeah,
He's a
but Dion
star.
has like Warren Sapp as an analyst. He's also got coaches who did a really good job teaching, who you don't know, who aren't household names, who didn't all play, who aren't all stars in the NFL. So a lot of them did play in the NFL, but they weren't stars in the NFL necessarily. So that's, I think Belichick has a pretty deep Rolodex when it comes to that.
Yeah.
I will point out one thing from the press conference that I chuckled at. You got to talk about how you're going to mold men. Like it's a
I knew that was
requirement.
coming. Yeah.
But it was so funny because he just loses steam trying to do it.
Excited to be here, excited to be in college football, excited for the opportunity to build and develop young student athletes, young men, and prepare them for their life, either in the NFL or professionally. But the lessons they learn will be professional lessons. They'll be pros in all areas, and that's what we want to develop, as well as having a winning program, a successful program. But we want to develop good people and good kids and good football players. So
I like it. He's just looking over at Bubba Cunningham at that point.
Am I
Like,
done?
I'm done with this, right? I can just move on. Like,
I think it's a nice segue to this conversation though, Andy, because like part of me too, it's like that press, like Andy texted me, guys, if you want to know how the sausage is made. Any quotes from the news conference that stood out to you that you think that we should talk about? And my answer was no. Like, I feel like that press conference was exactly what I've seen a million times watching SportsCenter and just watching him do interviews as the Patriots coach. And like, part of me was hoping that like 5% of me was like praying or like drooling at the notion of him coming out and being like, I am a 6-time Super Bowl champion. We are an NFL franchise. That's what this is. If you come
I am
here,
the one who knocks.
No, but I'm saying like, or like just like beating the crap out of that. Like
I would have enjoyed him to go him saying, "I'm not here to talk about molding men. My job is to win. If I win, I'll get a raise. If I lose, they'll fire my ass." Like that's what I want to hear a coach say at one point. And Bill Belichick of all people would be the one to do it. But even he didn't do it. So I'm never going to get to see that.
Or just like, I'm here to win football games, but in order to win football games, we also have to be champions in the classroom because that's a requirement. We understand what our job is here to do. We're going to support the young men in the classroom in order for them to, be successful in that walk of life. But make no mistake about it. This is the NFLcation of college football. We are going to make this an NFL franchise, and there's nobody.
That's what Herm Edwards did, though, and it didn't really work.
Yeah, but it doesn't hit the same.
I do realize
if you ask anybody what Herm Edwards' #1 claim to fame is as a human being, they'll just go,
"You play to win the game.
Win the game." Like that's like what Bill Belichick can do the picture with the hand and the rings, right? Like where you put the rings out with the knuckles, the Jordan or like this.
You have to have another hand too.
That's what I'm saying. Or didn't Jordan put 2 on his index finger?
I believe he did. Yeah. So. But I will say there was one point, and we'll wrap up with this one, that Bill Belichick handled masterfully. And it was the one where I go, okay, he can definitely be a college head coach because he's already got this BS down.
Bill, what do you say to people that fear that if you do succeed here, that you might leave for the NFL again in a year or two?
Yeah, I didn't come here to leave.
And the slow clap, beautiful. That because every coach has the dream job quote. Like it has been my dream to coach East Tennessee State University since I was born. Coach, they didn't have a program when you were born. Doesn't matter. I dreamed of coaching East Tennessee State University.
But
I'll never leave for Tulsa.
Listen. I don't want to be ageist, okay?
No offense to
Man's
Trey Lamb,
pushing
who just did that.
75 years old.
He's 72.
I know, but I'm saying like this isn't like a stepping stone. You know what I mean? Like it's like Mac Brown went to North Carolina.
People really think it is because they're thinking he's only thinking about Don Shula's record. He needs 15 more wins to pass him, and so realistically, you need 2 average NFL seasons to do that. And so that's what everybody's doing the math on. And I don't know if he wants to go back to the NFL and if he's going to try to
This
use
isn't
this
even
as
the
stepping stone.
smartest route to do that, because if it goes poorly here, you're even less of a candidate than you were before.
Yeah. You know what I think he's trying to do, Ari? I'm going to take Bill Belichick at face value. I think he wants to coach football. I think he's excited about a new challenge. And I honestly can't wait to see what happens, because this may be great. It may fail miserably. We have no idea. But it is the GOAT football coach coming to college football for the first time. And we're going to get to watch it all unfold. And I personally cannot wait.